funded. PJNet.TV, it's a brand new week, it's 9 o'clock, and we have a first-time guest standing by in the Eagle's Nest green room where our guests wait. And you'll enjoy this, I know. And our chat room is waiting. We are running our bumper. We're streaming. We're recording. And it's time to get started. Let's count it down. Studio 33 Alpha, starting now. Well, good evening. Welcome to a brand new week here on P. Well, it doesn't say it right now, but it says it over there. Okay, PJNet.TV. I'm Coach Prasick, and it's always fun to welcome a first-time guest to the big screen of Studio 33. And this guest has got quite a story to tell. You're going to like this. She will be, I believe I said to Christy Lou joins us from Pennsylvania, I believe, is where she's at. And I did the count earlier. I think you're like first-time guest number 296. But, actually, this is going to be kind of fun because I have watched your 6-week series, or, well, the majority of it anyway. You were the one interviewing others. Now it's your turn to be on the hot seat. Do you feel nervous?
A little bit, but I think that's healthy.
Now you know how they felt, okay? Christy Lou has got an interesting background. Now, we intersected, PJNet intersected her life because of Deb Haggerty, I believe, over at Elk Lake Publishing. And how do you know her?
Well, I've been very, very blessed to work with Elk Lake for the last 2 years with different authors. And Deb was very kind and invited me to their family reunion. And that was the weekend of May 20th through the 22nd out in Plymouth. And she wanted me to be there. And I had the chance to meet her in person. She and her wonderful husband, Roy, at their house, which is, they call it a pond. I would call it a lake. And then I got to hear the wonderful speakers and meet Dorinda Babcock and Will Inman that I partner with through Elk Lake to narrate their books, their series. That was just fantastic. But Deb is just one of these phenomenal, magnanimous human beings, the one in a million.
Okay, well, you were kind of modest. You said you've been working with several of their authors. Would you elaborate, please, and tell us, and not be so modest, and tell us what you do?
I'm a professional audiobook narrator, voice actress. I have worked with Deborah Coleman Jeter and narrated her Song of Sugar Sand series. I just finished the Wonders of the Galaxy anthology of sci-fi stories back in, I believe I finished that in March. And I worked with Jason William Karp, Steve South, L.G. Westlake, and Erica Marie Hogan on that project. And right now I'm narrating Travis W. Inman, his Earthfire tetralogy. I'm on the first book, which is Chrome World. I'm working with Erica Marie Hogan on her Winter Queen series. It's also a tetralogy. And Dorinda Babcock has engaged me for her for the Vendorans and the Ben Ramis, which will be coming out later, I believe in next year it will be coming out. And I'm working with all the authors of When Blooms Love, which is a romance anthology. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to work with a lot of these phenomenal authors.
Narrating books. That's not something we hear a lot about. How did you get into that? Did you just not, you couldn't cut it as whatever you were doing before and you fell into it, or how did that happen?
Well, don't mince words. I got into that because the summer of the lockdown, I had just in February, I had published my book, Freeing Colt, and I was going through a pretty big transition in my life, and it wasn't an easy time to find a job. And my book sales weren't great, and my boyfriends really just liked the sound of my voice, just my general speaking voice. I would tell him stories. And I launched into the story of Panther in the Sky by James Alexander Tom. It's about a 700-page book. So it was quite a lengthy story. And he was like, he's like, Christy Lou, you have as good a voice as any of these audiobook narrators that I listen to. Why don't you try? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then he was looking at his YouTube feed, and a YouTuber named Kat Theo popped up. And she had a video called, Can You Read Aloud? You Could Make Thousands. And what it was the process, spelled out of how you audition for acx.com and the titles that are listed there. And so between May of 2020 and July of 2020, I auditioned for no fewer than 25 titles and received 25 rejections. And I like to tell people it's a good thing to be an author and learn to handle rejection without taking it personally, because you sort of not necessarily expect it, but it's okay. 25, I was getting pretty discouraged, and Brett just kept saying, you're you're 3 feet from gold, and every rejection is one closer to an acceptance. Well, one afternoon I went out to the studio, and usually I would have a bunch of titles selected, and I had nothing. I was like, I've gone through these titles, I have nothing left. And I was like, Lord, just lead me to the right title. And so I literally just started scanning through the titles and praying over each page, and I felt like, okay, I'm going to try this one. And it was called Joy Afternoon by Deborah Coleman Jeter. And I auditioned for it, and I sent it out, and it was the first novel I had auditioned for. All the others were nonfiction, because I didn't think I had it in me to do voices or accents. I just thought, nah, that's not for me. So 2 days later, I'm sitting in the Dairy Queen parking lot, and I get this email from Travis W. Inman. I'm like, I don't know this guy. And I open it up, and it says, we'd like to offer you a 2-book contract. We loved your audition. I was like, what? And then I'm trying to figure out, which book was that? I can't even remember which one that was. And then when I realized it was a novel, I was like, oh dear, what have I done? And look where we are now, 2 years later. It's so exciting what the Lord had in store. I had no idea.
I get it. And you answered some of my other questions that I might have asked later anyway. Folks, you're going to get a blessing. Normally we don't do this kind of thing. But Christy she is a professional narrator, and she has decided to bless us today with a little sample after she, gets the, chords, doused down. But you have a sample to demonstrate how you do these things.
I do. This is from...
I got to hear it during the, off-air time. Can I just turn my camera off and drink coffee? Can I go?
You sure can. Okay, this is from Dorinda Babcock's Colorado Treasure. It's set in 1894, and we are currently in an Amarillo hotel dining room. Why are you smiling like that, Vicky? Abby toweled her wet hair as she stepped into the bedroom. The heat rose in Victoria's face as she turned back to the mirror. I think I'm willing to repeat. Uh-huh. That look had Antonio Morales' name written all over it. Really? Abby nodded. He had the same look on his face when you walked down the stairs of the hotel in your new blue velvet dress. I'll never forget that day. You and Tony provided hours of entertaining talk for me and me hard-working mum. Victoria grimaced. I'm glad you were amused. I don't remember the situation being so enjoyable. In fact, breathing and controlling my shaking hands were the only things I could think about at the time. Everyone in the restaurant stared at me, Abby. They made me so nervous. I wondered if I'd trip or drop food on my new gown. Abby tossed the towel onto the bed and plopped down in a comfortable chair. She grinned. Yes, I watched from the stairs. All conversation in the dining room stopped as Tony led you to the table and seated you. Abby laughed. One of those rich old cattlemen dropped his spoon in his soup when you walked into the room like the Queen of Sheba. The other men looked like they intended to catch flies, their jaws dropped so far and their mouths opened so wide. I've never laughed so much. Victoria turned and looked at Abby. I don't know how I survived that dinner. I'm sure whatever we ate was delicious, but all those stares took away my appetite. And then to see how Tony changed before me eyes. Abby laughed so hard she clutched her middle. What do you mean? Victoria's hand stilled. Didn't you notice his posture and expression? No. When he saw the reaction of the men in the dining room, he stood straighter and squared his shoulders. Like this, she said and modeled. I could have sworn he grew an inch. The attitude leaking from his skin could be seen at a distance. You men who think to approach my women had best think again. Every male in the place understood what he didn't say. Victoria shook her head. Tony's always been protective, even when I didn't need protecting. What did he say in Spanish when you reached him at the bottom of the stairs? After he spoke the first words, he said, Well done. Without a doubt, I will have to fight off the wolves tonight. Again, Abby modeled Tony's tone and posture that Friday night when he'd met her and his parents at the Amarillo Hotel for dinner. Victoria blushed and shook her head again. I don't remember. He says many things to me in Spanish. The words sounded like hermosa mía. Hermosa mía, my beautiful one. Color rose in Victoria's cheeks as she translated. Abby nodded and poked a finger in her direction. He loves you. I hope so, Abby, but he hasn't said anything. From the time we were children, he's always spoken to me in such a manner. So I don't know how much he speaks from habit and how much is from his heart. He doesn't appear to want to move the relationship further than friendship. Well, I'll never forget that night in Amarillo. Abby began braiding her damp hair. I won't either, even though those rude stares bothered me. I do remember Tony relaxed after the other diners returned to their meals. I sensed the stress leaving him and wondered why he was so uptight. I was the one wearing the dress. Oh, I can tell you why. I watched from the stairs and enjoyed every minute of the drama. When Tony noticed all the attention you got from the men in the room, he seemed ready to fight. Those men gave him measured and speculative looks before they turned their eyes back to you. Tony lifted his chin and his muscles tightened. He met their eyes look for look. A blind man could have sensed the challenge he offered. At least something good came out of that evening. Victoria smiled. You became my friend, and I learned more about my uncle from overhearing a conversation at the next table. Tell me again how you heard about your uncle. Seems a remarkable coincidence to my way of thinking. Almost like a miracle. Abby leaned back and sighed in expectation of a good tale. I never get tired of hearing your stories, Vicky. Your life seems so much more interesting than mine, though I've nothing to complain about. I doubt this is the case, but I'll humor you even though you were there. You know what happened. Yes, but I want you to fill in the details for me. They're the most entertaining part. Victoria rolled her eyes. Okay, get comfortable. I am. Now, tell. Makes you want to keep reading, doesn't it?
Yeah, folks. We when Christy first we were trying to make the arrangements, and she said, "Well, hey, can I do a narration?" I thought, well, that would be scripted, and we don't do scripts here. So, but I thought you were going to just get on screen and read the whole time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That would seem a little bit scripted.
Well. Christy, I was fascinated in watching. I think it's called the Old Crooked Barn. Did I get it right? Is that what it's called? You were on there with Brett on a 6 weeks mini series. Now Brett's doing some other things, but I thought, okay, yeah, this girl's got some talent. She's out there working, and at the end of the 6 weeks, I thought, well, whew, that's over. No, but right after that, you make an announcement that you're going to start a new journey on. Now, tell us a little bit about Brett, so that people know what I'm talking about, the Old Crooked Barn, and tell us what you're. I won't say pivoting. You're just continuing on the journey, just throwing gas on the fire. Tell us about what's next.
Okay, well, Brett Allen Morgan is my engineer, and so he does all the mastering of my files. He'll clip out if I have little milliseconds of space when I do an edit, so that you don't listen to the book and go, hang on, now did it stop? He goes and cleans that up for me. And he's been wanting me to do something on Facebook Live for a long time, and I just really didn't know how to get it started. And so he suggested that I work off of his existing page, his existing channel called The Old Crooked Barn Show. And he does 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon, he does Old Crooked Barn Show Shorts, which is 2 songs and then a word of the day and a positive thought of the day. And he wanted to try this book series. We'd been working with Will Inman and trying to figure out a way to have me narrate a little bit during that show, but it just didn't work. It was just two different worlds. And so we decided to try to create this other show with me narrating and then interviewing an Elk Lake author, and just sort of, the win-win-win
Hmm.
of the narration and the authors and the company all, promoting each other. And everything went so well and so smoothly. And he's a live entertainer. And so his season really gets off the ground in July. And so he really can't work with me again until probably late October. And we didn't want to have that long of a gap. So
Hmm.
we decided to kind of do a spin-off. And I'll just take the show onto my page. It won't be as high tech. It won't have the cool studio background that he has out in his barn. Because like all 150-year-old barns, the ridgepole's crooked, so that's why he calls it that. But we're just gonna make it work, and I have 9 guests, all Elk Lake authors, lined up through September 26th, and we will take Labor Day off. That's it, though. Starting next Monday, we start Monday at 8
You're
on my channel.
you're thinking that far ahead. You've got things going, Christy. I'm blown away. I love it when I see Christians putting themselves out there and competing, because the enemy is competing. We might as well get out there and fight too. And I appreciate your ministry. And I don't want to run out of time because we've only got about 3 minutes left. You are an author among the book's right there.
Yeah.
I have to think about which side is which when you're in a camera, because everything's backwards. Freeing Colt. Now, we've got the guitar there. Tell us more about Freeing Colt.
Okay. Colt is a guitar player. He's abused by his father, and he escapes him. And through a series of events, he learns that, having gone through an inpatient stay at a psych hospital for his homicidal thoughts, and meeting the people he meets there, including a guy who comes in and offers music therapy, he comes to realize that his calling is music, and he wants to do what this guy did for him. He wants to offer the hope and healing that only music can provide. And so he has the idea and the courage to go down to Nashville, and he finds a guy he can room with, and he finds a guitar teacher who becomes a mentor and a father figure in his life. And he heals through his experience with music and through meeting genuine Christian men who help him become the person that his mom raised him to be. She died when he was 17, and his dad became an abusive alcoholic in the wake of her death. And so what it is it's a story of hope and healing. And I went the self-publishing route because it deals with some extremely gritty and difficult topics. And there is language in there that's real world. But then it's also very strongly Christ-centered. And so it doesn't appeal to the secular publishing because of Jesus, and it doesn't appeal to the Christian publishing because of the language and the grit of the topics. So I figured I'll just put forward the money myself, and I went with booklocker.com because I respect Angela Hoy to the nth degree. And the people, it has brought 2 men that I know who were abused as young men, and they both came to me privately and said it brought me to tears because I could relate so well to what Colt was going through. If it touched those 2 men's lives and it brought them deeper into their relationship with God, that's good enough for me.
Something I've noticed, and I thought I'd ask you. I'm kind of the opinion or the assumption, I could be wrong, that you and Dorinda are like sisters or cousins or something, because you all are so supportive of one another. So I just have to ask you, is that your sister or cousin? What's the deal there?
No, sir. I just met Dorinda I actually first spoke to her in January of this year. In November, Will came to me out of the blue, phoned me and said, Christy, there's a narrator who's been working with an author named Dorinda Babcock. She's also our cover designer and an editor in the company. And this lady's husband passed 8 months ago, and she just plain does not have it in her heart right now to finish this romance novel. It's just, it's crushing her. Can you come in and do it? And I'm like, excuse me? And he says, actually, it's the first book in a trilogy. And I said, wait a minute, I remember this book. I considered auditioning for this book. It requires an authentic Mexican and Irish accent. I'm like, I can't do this book. And God led me through my mother, to a woman who is from Mexico, lived in El Paso for 20 years, and moved 10 minutes away from me. And I was able to learn the accent from her. Dorinda and I connected through that book, and as a result of what she's heard from Colorado Treasure, which I just wrapped and is in the process of being released through ACX, as a result, she has signed every book that she has published up to this point over to me. We haven't signed all the contracts yet, but she wants them all for me, and we've just become very close friends. And Dorinda's one of these people, if she's in your corner, it's like nothing bad could ever happen to you, because she's just this phenomenal, strong, loving human being. Yeah. She's got me, and I've got her.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you another question, but I'm not going to go there.
Sorry, we're out of time, huh?
We're out of time. And you wouldn't want me to ask it anyway. Okay?
All right. Well, thank you for having me on the show. It's been fun.
Christy, thank you so much. And God bless you. Thank you for your ministry. And we look forward to seeing and hearing your voice in the weeks and the months ahead. And thanks for coming on our program to share your experience.
Thanks,
hope you got an experience on the other side of the microphone there.
I do. I'll be getting back to Chrome World as soon as we're through.
There you go. All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. That was Christy Lou. That was different, wasn't it? Well, that's right. We have all kinds of people. You could be one. If you're a born-again believer in Jesus Christ and you would like to share your story, I'll make it easy. Okay. In just a few moments, if you go to pjnet.tv, that's where to watch this, we will have Casper Stockham. He joins us each Monday evening at 9:30 Eastern. So he's on his way. Before he gets here, I've got work to do, and I'm going to offer you some homework while we wait. It goes like this. It's ask yourself these two questions. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And when was that? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.